What is going on? What is going on? It's your girl, Melba Pearson, Melba from Miami, Melba for Justice, also known as the resident legal diva. And it's time for another Mondays with Melba. Super exciting show we have on deck today. But before I launch into that, let me at least talk a little bit about elections. So we had our primary elections in Florida. There were some amazing wins on primary night. So excited about Aramis Ayala screaming over my girl Ashley Gant, who unseated a Democrat in name only. Yes, I said it, but the voters knew it too. But really, really excited for Charlie Crist as the nominee for the Democratic Party for governor. He will be on the ballot this November, but also very excited that my friend Carla Hernandez Motz, who is the president of the United Teachers of Dade, was announced as his running mate. So she's been on the show before. Y'all know how she do. She is dope. She is really about the kids. She's a 10-year vet of the Miami-Dade public schools as a teacher. She teaches special ed kids. So this is someone who is all about the babies and that labor of love. And we know that education is featuring very heavily on the ballot with regards to the Anti-Woke Act and what does, teaching about gender identity and all of these other issues, how does that play out in the school system? So it's really important, folks, that we stay engaged, that we keep an eye on what's being said, the debates, all of that going on. Let's not just show up to the ballot box uninformed. I'm going to do my part and give you guys great content around that, but I'm going to need you to do your research as well. All right, with that, pivoting to our topic, an amazing guest for today, Sherylle Francis, who I've known forever. She is amazing, besides the fact that she stays in the gym and she's fabulous. She is also incredibly brilliant and really knows how to break down concepts around finance, because too many times we don't engage around issues of finance. It just seems too big, or I'm too broke, or it's too late for me to develop a plan to pass down something to the next generation. So we're going to bust through all those myths today, and I'm super excited about that. Oh, and another amazing fact about her, she's a fellow Jamaican just like me. Hey. So Sherylle, welcome to Mondays with Melba. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thank you. And I'm so excited to be here in Melba. Without you, I wouldn't know a lot of what's going on in the community. So thank you for all the work you do, and keep plugging away. So just to get into it, everybody's talking about the recession. Is it here? Is it coming? What is it? It doesn't really matter, because if you're feeling the pain of it, none of the technical definitions really matter, right? So what do? That causes a lot of anxiety for people. A lot of people are anxious about their finances to begin with, and hearing the word recession over and over again, and every single broadcast, is it here? What are the feds doing? That really just drives your anxiety. So what can you do? You can get ready, right? My mantra is really stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And one of the ways you can do that is to create a financial roadmap for your life, right? All of the things that I'm talking about today, none of it's going to be new. And you're going to filter it so that if you can actually use some or a portion of what I'm talking about today to apply to your own life, it may actually be helpful, right? So part of what is important when you're creating your financial plan is to think about your goals. What do you want to do and why, right? So some of the things that people typically look towards the future for is, well, do I have an emergency fund, right? And, do I pay down all these credit cards? What am I going to do about student loans? For the lucky few that did get forgiven, that is super awesome. I think more of that should be done. But back at the farm, there are a lot of people holding a tremendous amount of debt, right? So you want to look at some of those goals. Have I saved enough for retirement? A lot of people, they will say no. I myself am behind because I did not become financially literate until much later in my life. So, you're always playing catch up, and you really want to try to be consistent in whatever it is you're doing, so you're not freaking out all the time, right? So one of the things you can do once you've identified your goals and figure out, okay, this is what I want to do, then the question is, how do we get there, right? What am I going to do? I know what my goals are. What am I going to do? I'm overwhelmed. There are some key tenets in creating a good financial foundation, meaning getting your house in order. One of the first things is develop a budget, right? I used to hate budgets. I'm like, I don't have any money. I don't want to see how much I don't have. But
That
ignorance is
part.
not bliss. It's not, not when it comes to your money, right? And if you need help, developing a budget, there are a lot of apps online. You can actually type in budget tools and a bunch of them will pop up. NerdWallet has a pretty good one. But what that does, it gives you a sense of how much you have or don't have, right? So you can actually start jotting down things on a piece of paper right now. What's your monthly income, right? There are some simple tools and concept that you can use in creating a budget. There's one called the 50-20-30 rule that many people may have heard about. And really what that does, it breaks down your income, your monthly income, into needs, wants, and savings. So the rule of thumb, and again, I say rule of thumb, but this may not apply to everybody, and I'll tell you why in a minute. 50% of your income is supposed to go to paying your mandatory fixed needs, right? Your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, things you can't live without. 20% of that is supposed to go to savings, right? And then 30% should be your wants. Now, what constitutes a want and a need? That's variable. It depends on our mood, which it shouldn't, right? I mean, which one of us has not done retail therapy? I went through a bad breakup, or, oh my God, I won something, or this great thing happened in my life. I deserve that purse, right? So what this does is going to hold you accountable. That's what a budget does, right? So the reason why the 50-20-30 rule doesn't often work is because, let's say you live in an area like Florida, which now housing is unaffordable. So your mandatory needs may actually take up more than 50% of your monthly income, right? So you kind of have to look at that, but still, you still want to set it out. You want to have a bucket that has everything you have to pay to live, right? The variable expenses, and think about that. So your variable expenses, actually, when we say variable, you're not spending the exact same amount on groceries. It just depends, right? But one of the things you can look at is how you spend. So for me, and I'm not casting aspersions, this is a judgment-free zone today. I'll just go to the grocery store and I'm like, I'm grocery shopping. And if I see something that, I can use that. So I have a pantry that has a ton of stuff in there, and outside of hurricane supplies, things that I'm not using. Right? So you maybe want to be more intentional about how you spend, because just because you're working and you may be flush with cash, you really want to take the time to be more intentional and purposeful about what you buy, and don't get suckered into, I'm at the cash register and I'm in line for, 30 minutes, so I might as well pick up some other things. No, do you need it? Do you want it? Can you live without it? And so you really have to look at how you're living and how you're spending your money and how you're moving. Gas is astronomical. Do you need to drive every single place? And, so you want to be purposeful in what you do, because all of that does reflect on your income, right? So again, that's why the 50-20-30 rule doesn't always work. But I think starting there as a basic concept is something that will give you a start. It'll have you examine what you're spending. If you're eating out too much, you may see, oh my God, do you ever get those statements at the end of the year? American Express has them, and I always look at mine and it just floors me. And even though I try to be good, I can't believe how much money I actually spend on food. So the bulk of my expenses actually are food, right? So I'm a foodie, but I go to the grocery store like maybe twice a week. So I'm trying to be more intentional now, where I make a list and I go once a week. And I do a meal plan now. For example, on Sunday, I'll figure out what I need to eat during the week. And then I go to the store, and that drives my purchase, as opposed to, today is Wednesday, nothing's in the house, I don't feel like cooking, let me go spend $30. So, and these are just minor things, right? But you have to think about ways to save. And going back to that other point is, I buy more in bulk now. Right? So you may have to buy generic. You don't have to buy name brand everything. It's not like back in the day where if you bought a box of cereal, it just said cereal on it, you're a pariah. I mean, the generic stuff actually tastes pretty good.
Exactly. But sometimes the off-brand didn't taste as good as the real one. So, but now the generic.
Here's a point that people don't understand, only because I defend manufacturers that some of the food that is labeled generic is actually made by the same people who made the brand names. You just don't know it. So
Right.
you're getting all caught up in I have to buy X. Meanwhile, it's the same company that made it. You just don't know because the labeling is different, right?
Right.
So that's one of the things that could reduce your bill if you're interested. And then try to reduce your impulse purchases. And I'm going to be honest with you, that is a hill that I struggle on, because if I go to, I don't know, Walmart or Sam's Club or something, and I have my list, I do. And I get there and I'm like, oh my God, look, something else is on sale and I should get it, but do I need it? Do I want it? Can I live without it? It's not a special occasion. What are we doing? So I think, pre-pandemic, there were low interest rates. Maybe a lot of people were doing incredibly well. And so we just spent, and it's hard to rein that in, but you have to make that part of your process in order to really reduce some of the headache that comes later when you look at your credit card bills, right? And another thing that we really should remember is to pay ourselves first. That's the thing that I've become very cognizant of, and that's a saving portion, right? And so how do you start? So one of the first things you want to do is really build an emergency fund, right? Rule of thumb, again, is 3 to 6 months, but I think with the pandemic and all the crazy nonsense, that it looks like 9 to 12 may actually be more reasonable, and you can build towards that. I'm going to address a comment just popped up in the chat. Thank you for bringing me back to a prior conversation, the discussion. The 20% is what you should save. Yes. But again, if you can save more, again, these are just guidelines. You have to look at your life. Don't stay in that 20% box if you can actually do more. Because the savings we're talking about, it encompasses the emergency fund, your retirement savings, your walking away fund, meaning, I want to work for another 10 years and then I want to build a business. That goes into the saving. That is you investing in yourself. So 20% is a baseline. But I really like saving because I like to know that I have a cushion if things go south that prevents you from freaking out. And it gives you the opportunity to be more intentional and purposeful when you're looking for your next opportunity, as opposed to just taking the next thing that's there because it's there and I need my bills, right? No. So the question is, the 20% will encompass your emergency fund. So you're saving wholesale, and you can actually divvy up your savings. So the emergency fund is very, very important. Like I said, that is a thing that is going to give you a bit of sanity as you're transitioning, because from my perspective, and I've had a bunch of different opportunities in my life, we're always preparing for the next thing, right? Nothing is permanent, right? So the only constant is change. And so to weather that storm, especially when we just hear terms being thrown out, recession, it's doomsday, you just try to actually save up that emergency fund. So again, 3 to 6 was the norm, I think, pre-pandemic. I think now, given what we've all experienced, 9 to 12 may actually be a better lodestar.
And that's months, 9 to 12 months of
12 months of living expenses, right?
Yeah.
When you can actually look at your budget to figure out what your living expenses are. And you put that in a bucket and say, if God forbid you went to your job, right, and they said, we're going in a different direction and you're not coming, you're not going to fall out. You don't have to do a GoFundMe. You're not so much on the struggle bus. Your only issue is, all right, now I have at least X amount of time before I go into my next position or my next opportunity. That's really critical. So how do you save? What are you going to do? Oh, nobody ever has enough money. Well, some of the people I know, right? Some people I know, they have tons of money, but a lot of them don't. How do you save? So consider doing a direct deposit, sort of an automatic from your paycheck. So something that goes directly into your savings account, just routine. You want to set it and forget it, right? Just pick a number. Say, okay, I'm comfortable not having maybe 200, 300, it doesn't matter what the amount is, but as long as you keep doing it on a routine basis, every paycheck, no matter what's happening in your life, just try to do it. And if you skip some points of time because something happens that's extraordinary, that's okay. Because remember, again, you have to be patient with yourself and forgive yourself if you're not on task. Every day you get up, it's a new day to start over and be your best self, right? So keep that in mind. And then when you get like tax refunds or rebates, or if you have a cash app and you get money back, direct that into your savings. Not to say you're going to deprive yourself of everything, because the people who know me know that I don't deprive myself of much, right? But you really want to think through how you're living and think a little bit about the future so that you're able to allocate some funds on a routine basis into an account that's easily accessible. Like, you don't want it tied up, right? You should always be able to, those funds should be accessible to you very quickly. And
so in other words, so a couple things with that. So in other words, let's say, what percentage of your tax refund should you save? So maybe save half and then spend half, or does that vary?
Well, it depends. It depends. Because remember, by the time, let's say, most people have some type of savings. It may not be enough, but let's say you have some. Let's say you get a windfall. You get like 10 grand, right? And you're thinking to yourself, what do I do? Do I blow it all on the vacation? Right? You could, but then you're back to square one with your savings. So look at, whenever you get that windfall, you have to look at your budget again. You have to look at your savings account. Oh my God, maybe I should put 5 grand there and spend half. Or maybe I should put all of it there because I haven't reached my goals, right? So this is all goal driven. And let's say in your head, you say in 6 months, yes, the emergency fund can go in a different account because you can save towards different purposes. We can all walk and chew gum at the same time, right? So let's say you have one, because I have several savings accounts. So you can have one savings account, that's your emergency fund. You have another one just for, let's say you're saving up for a down payment on a house, right? You're doing different things. And so you can actually allocate your savings in however way you want to do it, as long as you save, right? That's the key. And you really want to try to be consistent so that you reach your goals. Because again, you really do want to revisit your budget ever so often. I would say quarterly, to make sure you're on task, right? So you're setting it and forget it. But what if something happened? Now you're off track. You need to, look at or reevaluate your portfolio again. So,
okay, so let me jump in with one more. So you said that the money should be easily accessible. So that means that you shouldn't tie it up in like bonds or like.
No. You listen. In an ideal world, it would be in a high yield savings account. But we all know what banks are paying now, right? So don't let that prevent you from putting it in a regular savings account. Right? You don't worry so much about the interest. It's more important for you to have access to it than to get some great interest rate.
Awesome. And then of course, April's on fire with the questions. Come through, April. Just ask it.
When you use your savings account. Well, listen, again, it depends on what goals you set for yourself. So remember, this is all goal driven. You want to pay down your debt. Why? Because you want to have more money to do the things in your life that you want to do, right? And you want to be more comfortable in case of an emergency. So you're going to there's 2 issues. So the emergency fund should only be used for an emergency. Let's just say you look at it one day and it's like, whoa, that's pretty flush. Maybe I can buy that purse I wanted and I'm going to take a trip to Europe. Negative? No, because now you're going against your goals, right? So you have to hold yourself accountable. A savings account is just that. You have an emergency fund and you have a savings account, but because you've already sat down and talked about what the goals are in your life financially, you'll know exactly when to use it. Yeah. The other thing you want to really focus on too is to pay down debt, right? Who likes debt? Nobody, right? So for example, if you have a bunch of high interest rate credit cards, you want to try to get rid of those. And if you have several, you just line them up, and the one that has the highest interest rate, you start getting rid of that one first. So the feds are now increasing interest rates, which means that the credit card issuers, because their rates are usually variable, they're going to start popping up, right? And you certainly don't want to use your emergency fund in an emergency to pay, these high interest rate cards. So try to attack that as well, consistently. And for some people, they pay a little bit more on their credit cards. It's a way to chip away at the principal, because the thing that kills us is the interest, right?
Yes.
So that's something to think about. And this one's a biggie for me. Consistently save for retirement. It's one I struggle with as well. So what will happen is at various times in your life, maybe you look at your 401k and like, man, let me just take out that money and do X. Now, you got to start over, right? So to the extent you don't have to take money out of it, just keep it there and keep funding it. It's another one you can set and forget, because by the time you know it, a decade has passed, and you may or may not be in the stock market anymore, and you're losing out on all that compounded interest, all those gains. Because for me, just from my perspective personally, Social Security for me is not going to afford me the lifestyle I've become accustomed to. So I have to have other plans for myself. Right? I don't want to be on the struggle bus when I'm in my 70s.
Seriously.
I really want to be able to travel and be able to wake up and not be stressed out about how I'm going to pay my bills. So that's something to think about. If you are at a job that has a 401k, do it. Right? Take advantage of all the free money, especially if they match. And even if they don't match, just do it. And even if you're not going to stay there long, do it. That money goes with you. If you leave the job and you go somewhere, you just take it with you. It's yours. So don't sit there for a year talking about, oh, I'm going to get another job, and you have not contributed to the 401k. Stop it. Just go ahead and do it, right? I made the mistake of not contributing to a 401k early in my career, and I live to regret it, seriously. So that's something that we need to look at and always contribute to if possible. And then take a look at your lifestyle, right? One thing I've always lived by, especially when I became a single parent, is it's important to stay in your lane, right? I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses. I need very little to live. I have more than I need to live. And I'm very appreciative of that and very grateful. So I don't try to create problems by increasing my expenses so that they exceed what I bring in every month, right? That's something that my parents taught me. I try to live by it. And even when I do impulse shop, I catch myself and I'm like, can't do it. I just can't. Right?
Not prudent, not gonna do it.
Right. And I'm not judging, because it does happen. Impulse shopping it's real. So that's something that you have to look at, have a discussion with yourself and think about, how am I living? Is there anything in my life that I can do without? And do I need to take on bigger debt than is necessary? Right. And a very important thing is to always invest in yourself, right? If there are courses at your job that enhance your professional career or your personal life, do it. Even if it's related to the job, you're like, I might not even be here. Just do it. You don't know, because these things that you're doing are really for you. Yes, they benefit the company sometimes, but they really enhance your personal career. And once you get it, who can take it from you?
And it's all part of your compensation when you think about it, because the office will pay usually for these types of trainings. It benefits you, it benefits them. Doing the 401k, that's part of your compensation. If they're matching, that's money coming from your employer. That's
free money.
So,
yeah, exactly. So don't say, oh, I don't want to do this. Well, you can always say it, but think about how this may actually benefit you in your career and your journey, because you may not always be at a job. But you always want to have the added benefit of any extra knowledge, certification. I'm one of those people who I always say you'd have to pay me to go back to school. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten really interested in a lot of things. And I'm like, oh, wow, I want to do that. I want to try that course. Because for me, knowledge is power, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my mantra. And the other thing when you invest in yourself is, I'm always of the belief that it's always good to have a couple of headhunters on speed dial. So
Ooh,
even if they're not placing you, even if they're not placing you, they know the market, they know about the compensation levels at different points, right? They're really good for strategizing. So even though you may not use them, and remember, they don't work for you, they work for the companies who hire them, but they're a wealth of information that you really can use to guide your career and help you. And it also helps to talk to them around what is it, bonus or compensation time, so you can actually gauge whether or not you're getting paid properly. How about that?
mhm, mhm.
And then consider supplementing or diversifying your income. So anybody who knows me knows that I'm a hustler, right? I like to have a bunch of different things that I do. And even though everything I do is related to the law, including my mediation practice, I like to have different streams of income because all the streams are not going to be on fire at the same time. Sometimes they are, but not always. Right?
Mhm,
And as you
mhm.
get older, they'll probably become more important to you. There are lots of things that you can do in your life, right? I now am of the belief that I won't let anybody dictate to me what I can and cannot do, right?
Yes.
My path is my path. You have to walk in your power. Get up. If you have to go on a retreat, like gather your besties and think about, and strategize about what else can I do with my life, do it. It is worth thinking about it because you don't want to look back on your life and say, oh, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. And if there's a way to monetize it, even better. But even if you have to start off doing it free until you get your sea legs, right? Think about another way that you can supplement your income so that if one stream dries up, you're still good.
Amen to that. Because listen, there's so many opportunities now with remote work and,
Yeah.
people developing side hustles, whether it's
Yep.
you're making candles and selling them on Etsy because that's your passion project, or you love to
Yeah.
bake and now you're doing weddings and different
Yep.
events. So there's all these little things that people just do just for a little bit of extra money here and there that you can really monetize with the use of the internet to get to a wider audience and therefore a wider base of customers. So this is all beautiful.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. So before we run out of time, Melba, I want to get to my favorite topic. Part
Yeah.
of your financial plan should also include developing generational wealth. So I worked for New York Life for about 2.5 years, and that opened my eyes in ways that would not have happened otherwise. So, there's a huge wealth disparity in this country that continues to widen. And one of the simplest ways to create generational wealth to close that gap is through life insurance, right? Life insurance gives you the opportunity to get rid of your debt, leave a legacy, and take care of the ones that you love. And the benefit is typically distributed tax free. And there are actually two types of life insurance. We're not going to have enough time, but I'll run through it as quickly as I can. There's term and permanent. The term is exactly how it sounds, it's only for a term. But most people have a combination. So the whole life actually has cash value in it and it's permanent. Depending on the policy you choose, you can actually take money out of your whole life policy to use while you're alive, and you can use it to supplement your retirement income as well. So if you don't have life insurance, talk to somebody, get some more knowledge and information about it so you can benefit from it. It is absolutely a life changer. And one of the things I really like about it is you can get it for children as early as one. My son has had his own life insurance policy for years, and that does a couple of things. Number one, if the child gets older and they have any sort of health problems, or they can't get life insurance, you already hooked them up at the front end, right? And those policies last a lifetime. The premiums never change, and the child can actually pull money out of it when they get older, tax-free. So it's a great benefit. It's something that we don't talk about a lot in our community, but we definitely should. It's empowering, it's life-changing. And, I have 4 policies, Mel, but I'm thinking of getting a couple more.
Okay. I support you.
Oh, and the last thing I'll say for older adults thinking about life insurance, think about getting a long-term care policy. It's really supposed to supplement when you get older, right? And if you need to be in any sort of facility or have somebody come to your house to assist you with your activities of daily living. Because if you don't get it and you don't qualify for Medicaid, then you have to pay out of pocket. It's absolutely exorbitant. Cost is ridiculous. So
ironically, I actually had that discussion with a friend of mine when I went to a conference a couple of weeks ago. He's caring for his mother who has Alzheimer's or
mm-hmm.
dementia, the other, and she's in a facility. But because she had that long-term care insurance, it's completely like nothing out of pocket to her,
Yeah.
kids, and she's staying at a top-notch facility in Connecticut, where normally that's the kind of place where it'd be like $15,000 a month, 10, 13. I mean, this is normal, 10 to
Yep.
$15,000 a month for the
Yeah, no,
level.
that's exactly right. And it's actually going to go up. So the thing we don't plan for when we think about retirement is those additional costs, right? It's actually long-term care insurance. So you can talk to any insurance agent about it. They have different policies out there. You have to sit with your agent, think about how you want to live, where you're living, some of the things that have happened in your family, your health, and typically mid 50s is some of the best times to get it. But if you actually are prone to certain diseases, you might consider getting it even earlier.
Yeah, because I think also too, like if you have cancer in your family, if you know that
Diabetes.
diabetes, high blood pressure, all of those
Yep.
things, listen, it'll creep up on you in the middle of the night, and you're like, and next thing you know, you've got a situation,
Yep.
and now you've got to take off work, or your loved one has to take off work to help you, and it becomes a financial burden. So
Yes, it does. Yes.
all things to
Yes.
consider. And of course, April has the key question: do you have a website, and did you write a book?
Yeah.
So if you
So I
have
do have a website. So, but the best way to reach me actually is Sherylle at sfrancislaw.com. And my website is sfrancislaw.com. And no, I haven't written a book. I have several books in me, but it's going to take me a while to start the first one. But I guess I just have to begin, right?
do it. Just go on a retreat, hang out in like Montego Bay or the Grill for like a month and
Yep.
just knock it out. You got this.
Yeah, and gather. So I have a group of women that I move with. They're incredibly brilliant. They're smart. They're very powerful. So I draw on them for strength and wisdom and guidance. Sometimes when I'm about to jump off a cliff, and so it would require me to meet with my little cabal before I move on. But it's all good.
And for everybody who's tuned in, I will drop her website, Sherylle's website, and her email in the comments. So that way you'll be able to reach out to her. And if this is not a comment situation because you're listening via a podcast, it will be in the description of the body of what we're talking about today. So there you have it. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Sherylle, for sharing these key money moves. Best believe I would like to have you back, especially in January when people are doing their, New Year's resolutions and let me get my house in order for this new year. I think this is definitely a great discussion that we need to have on a regular basis because, again, it can be very overwhelming for folks. You're like, oh, I got to take time this afternoon and like Google life insurance policies. Yeah, no,
you got to do it. Yeah, but you got to do it because I'm telling you, the years go by, you keep having the same conversations and you're not moving. So you got to just get up and just do something.
Absolutely. And two final things. Number one, this month is wills month. So if you do not have a will, you really need to get it together and do it. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can go get a template from any of a number of online resources. I know moveon.org is having a promotion this month. So if you are a member of Move On, you may have received an email that directs you to a link that you can do a free will, very basic online. Just have something, right? Like you can update it, but to have nothing means the state that you live in gets all your stuff. Unless, of course, you're married and so, or you have dependents, right? If you're married or you have a child, then they will get your stuff. But if you're in a long-term partnership that's not necessarily legal, as in you haven't gotten married, or you don't have any kids and you're single, listen, You may want to designate that you want your stuff to go to your brother or to your cousin or to a charity that you care about, to your
Right.
dog, whatever it is, just make sure it's in writing. And lastly, for all those who got loan forgiveness, just think about the fact that now you have a little extra disposable income every month. Not saying that you're balling, but you have like maybe an extra $100 a month. You may want to live as if you don't have it and put that $100 in savings. And so that way you're in the mindset and it's not money that you necessarily miss. I mean, again, I'm being cognizant of the fact you may not have had it to begin with. Times are tough. I remember
Yep.
being a baby prosecutor, paying back my loans, and eating like ramen noodles at Raisin Bran, popcorn, and red wine for the last week of the month until like my right. So, I'm very cognizant of the fact that everybody's financial situation is different. But if you
Right.
got that loan forgiveness and you have that little bit of extra money, try and at least save some portion of it. So that way it's working in your favor. So, anyway, thank you again, Sherylle. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for your amazing questions and comments. Check the comments for her information to be able to keep in touch with her. And lastly, make sure to comment, share, like, and each one teach one. All right,
Great.
y'all. Take
Thank
care.
you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.